Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Snowfall Aftermath. And I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? So, yeah, today we will be recapping Snowfall Season 4, Episode 8. And what an episode this was. Quite a lot happened. There is a lot to talk about. We've got a lot of positive points to discuss, as well as some negatives, some critiques. But yeah, we're gonna get straight into it because we know that you guys wouldn't want to hear what we got to say, and we want to hear what you have to say as well. So make sure you guys are leaving your comments about what you think about Snowfall. And also, drop a like as well and subscribe if you're liking the content and everything, because that helps us, continue to do this.
hmm
So yeah, let's get straight into our takeaways from this episode and get into these topics we have to discuss. So I'm gonna go first this week because last week Richard went first with his takeaways. So I'm gonna get right into mine. So in this episode, we finally got the confirmation, for something that we've kind of been speculating over for a very long time, and that is T working with Manboy. So, we got that scene in this episode where T and Manboy are kind of discussing, the plans that they've put in place for T to find out who the connect is and everything. And Manboy is kind of upset that she's taking so long. He gets frustrated and he even knocks her upside the head and everything while he's got the gun or whatever. So yeah, we get that confirmation, and of course I'm gonna get to what happens later on. But before I get to that point, I just want to point out that it was disturbing to know that Franklin had no idea at all. Like, he didn't suspect her one bit. Like, like it seemed like he was falling in love with her or something. Like, he was just head over heels. So
hmm
T's been working that magic clearly, in the bedroom. So you know, that's just what it is. But yeah, so then we also get a scene where Franklin, he actually invites Irene for a discussion because of course we see how this episode opens up. The story is out, and Franklin is exposed and everything, and the CIA is exposed, because of Irene's story that she broke. So Franklin, he's at this point in time, he still can't get hold of Teddy. He can't talk to him because Teddy's away, and he's handling some stuff overseas. So Franklin actually invites Irene, to the cafe to talk and everything. And there's that scene where they're sitting down and they're talking, and Franklin kind of, he basically hints at the fact that the CIA is going to come for her, and that they are going to possibly come for her family, and he brings up like the names of her family. And then she gets very irritated by this, and she says, leave my family out of it. And I have to poke at her a little bit here, because was she thinking about Franklin's family when she decided to go ahead and publish that story? Because these stories, they don't just affect the people you're writing about, they affect all of the people that they know as
hmm
well. So it's
hmm
like she was very reactive in that moment, saying leave my family out of this. But was she thinking about Franklin's family and Franklin's friends' families, and things like that? A lot of people actually could get hurt by that article that she put out. So I had to kind of call her out on that one a little bit. But and I mean, she's coming from a good place, of course, because she wants to expose the corruption and everything, what the CIA is doing. So from that perspective, I understand her motives. But at the same time, there's a lot to think about and consider before you kind of put out such a huge story that's going to affect so many people. So and then even her own family, going back to that, I feel like she she wasn't like, of course she did think about, the ramifications and if it would blow back onto her family, because we see scenes where she's with her, ex-husband or whatever, and they're discussing this. But still, it seems like she was very stubborn, and there was nothing that was going to stop her from doing this, even if her family didn't want her to. So it's like, can you really get mad at Franklin for bringing this up? When this is just the reality of the situation that you caused. So she should have had plans in place already. She should have like sent her family out of town already, like when she put that article out, if she was so worried about that. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. And then we also get a scene where Alton and Sissy, have a discussion. Alton kind of turns up, and he suggests that Sissy should basically run away with him. Get away from Franklin and everything that's going on. I guess Alton feels like it's too far gone now, and Franklin is going to kind of he's on a downfall basically, and I guess he feels like Franklin is too stubborn to kind of like, stop what's happening. So he wants Sissy to get out of it because he knows that she has a good heart, even though she's kind of gone along with what's been happening. And yeah, Sissy refuses in that moment, but we can discuss what her final verdict on that will be later on, because yeah, she might have a change of heart. So and continuing with Sissy, we also see that the business with Paul Davis is kind of it's a bit rocky at the moment. Like, the guy shows up to give her the money back that they sent for Paul Davis. So with all this going on, the fact that they've been exposed by the media, it seems like legit people are not going to want to work with them now, and they're not going to want to accept their money. And you could take that as, okay, so now the business with Paul Davis is done, but for some reason I feel like we're going to see Paul Davis again at some point. I feel like that's not the end of it. It's not that simple. I feel like we're going to see this character pop up again. So at what capacity that will be, I'm not sure, but I don't think it's the end of that. But we'll see. So let's get to some of the juicier things that happen. So so I have to call out something with last week's episode and this week's episode, right?
Yep.
There's like one big fatal flaw that these characters kind of put forward in these two episodes, and it involves Leon, right? Because so last week we see that they put Leon back on the streets, and they expect him to be totally fine with that, and I mean, somebody even came to where Leon was at to kind of like cash in on the bounty. They held a gun up to him. They could have easily killed him in that moment, to try and get this bounty that's out on him. So from that, they should know that this is real and that people are still out for Leon. Like, people still want him dead, right? So then the funeral comes in this episode for Fatboy, and like, why do they think it's a good idea for everyone to be at this funeral? I mean, of course they want to pay their respects, but keep in mind, this is also the same guy that Franklin was going to send to prison for the crime that happened. So surely they know that people are still out to get Leon. They know this because of what happened. Surely it would have been better to just pay for the funeral, but not necessarily attend, and then if they want to at a later time, they can visit the gravesite in their own time or something. I feel like that would have been a smart approach, because now isn't the time to kind of like play into perception. So clearly they went there because they want to make it seem like they're paying respect or whatever for image purposes. But now is not the time to do that with all that's going on. You got the media coming at you. You got all these people who know what you've been doing, and then you've also got people who are trying to get at Leon, and we see obviously that Louie tries to warn Jerome not to go, that they shouldn't go and everything, but they still end up going. And yeah, so
Well,
I get, yeah, go ahead.
well, let me just make a quick comment, and then you can continue giving your points. That also is a flaw. I agree. What I also would add to that is that not only do they decide it's a good idea to go to the funeral, but everybody knows how to find the other person. So if you have beef with them, Jerome is angry, talking about, okay, now I'm gonna go to the barbershop and go after these guys. So that tells me they knew the whole time this is where Manboy and his crew hang out. Why don't you confront them now? Why would you wait for them to do something to make you want to confront them? So I didn't understand that. And then on the flip side of that, Manboy, they know exactly where Franklin is at. They know exactly where all of them is at. So they could have came at any point. They could have came after him directly.
Yeah,
But no, it's like both sides are just waiting to see what happens with the other. And then when the other does something, okay, now I will retaliate, which is ridiculous. But yeah, I agree. It didn't make sense for Leon to be there for them, and for them to think that they can go there and nothing would happen. That's just completely ridiculous. It makes no sense at all. I know Jerome was angry at Louis for lying to him about what was happening with Reed all this time, but it just doesn't make any sense. You're so mad that, well, no, now I'm going to do things my way. I don't care what happens. And then you're surprised when your girl gets shot. Come on, man. You got to think. You got to think more. Think more about this. Stop making this about pride and try to be smart about it. And that is why we'll get into it later. But that's why I don't know if Jerome is going to have a good episode next week.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We saw the preview, but yeah. So obviously, Louis ends up getting hit because Khadija plans her retaliation during the funeral. They pull a drive by. They're trying to get Leon, but in the commotion they end up shooting Louis. So yeah, Louis gets she catches a bullet, and she was the one who was trying to warn Jerome not to show up. So yeah, that's the sad reality of what happened there. But we also see that Teddy and Franklin finally catch up with each other, and they get to have a discussion. They talk about the article that came out. They talk about Alton, and basically Teddy says that you need to try and put a muzzle on him as soon as possible. So I guess they're scared that he's gonna keep talking at this point.
Yep.
So that's interesting. And then Teddy also tells Franklin a very fundamental thing. He says, trust no one. Just don't trust anybody at all. And I guess that's what it takes for Franklin to wise up a little bit. When he should have been wise already, but yeah, because he's had people following him and all types of crazy stuff, and it seems like he's still nonchalant, like he's not even worried. So that's what made me think that he was aware of what's going on, because he just seemed so calm like these past few episodes, like he knew what was going on, but clearly he didn't know what was going on. So that's pretty interesting. And then we have, I know you're gonna have a lot to say about this scene as well. You probably got this in your takeaways, but we see Teddy visit Irene. He pops up in her house.
Oh, yep.
This reminds me a lot of Power, where people just show up in people's houses without I guess they made no noise at all or anything, and they just managed to get in. I mean, they are CIA, so they probably have training for that, but yeah, they end up in her house. She's sleeping, of course, and then they grab her, and they Gustavo was there, I guess, and he covers her mouth so she can't make too much noise, and then Teddy has the injection or whatever it is. I guess it's a sedative in there or something. And he basically tells her, this time you're gonna wake up tomorrow, but next time you won't wake up. And I'm sure there was a lot of discussion about this from many people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I'm sure
possibly.
I'm sure everybody said the same thing. Like, why didn't you just end it right there? You know, like you could have just ended everything right there. I know it's
Mm-hmm.
very dark to say that, like, oh, you know, the CIA killing, you know, the media and everything, but it seems realistic though. Like, if that situation were to happen in real life, I feel like, you know, he would have just taken her out right there. Like,
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
that would have been it. But you know, in this situation, I guess they have more for this character to do, and they want to buy time. They want to keep her alive. But yeah, it just seemed more logical to just end it right there. But what was you gonna say?
No, I agree 100%. They should have ended it right then and there because in this episode, just like you've already mentioned, Franklin visits her at a cafe
Mm-hmm.
and has that message in there about that they these people can hurt your family. So what she's probably going to think is that Franklin probably met up with this guy, told him what happened, and this is how he retaliated, which means that she can definitely go after Franklin even more so now. And the other thing that I really don't understand is if you are going to drug somebody, at least wear a mask so they don't see your face. I mean, that was just it's very bold to do that. And I mean, I believe Ghost did the same in Power as well, where he showed up and you could see it's Ghost clearly. He didn't care if the person ID'd him or not. But it's just I just think she obviously doesn't know the guy's name, but if she's able to ID him, that's a problem. So I don't understand why you wouldn't tie up that loose end because now that you put two and two together. Franklin spoke with her in this episode. She's going to think Franklin has something to do with this, and that's who she does know and who she can go after. So this is not going to end well for Franklin, and I would not be surprised if she puts some more pressure on Alton and Franklin next week.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we'll see what happens. I just think Teddy though you want to get this over with. You take her out, and if you can't do it, maybe you can have your boy Gustavo do it. But I do have something to say about him in the takeaway, so we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like with the mask thing, that's probably a TV thing that they did because they want the viewer to know exactly who it was, I guess.
Mhm.
But they could easily fix that just by having like you know like a scene right before that that's just a few seconds long of them putting the mask on or something
Mhm.
like you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, like yeah, very. It seems very stupid. It seems like people are making a lot of mistakes here, but you know, who knows why? Maybe there's a reason for all this, but we just gotta wait and see. But it definitely seemed like the logical thing to do right there was to just take her out right there. But
I
you
agree
know,
100%.
yeah, but it's very grim. But you know, that's just the reality of what happens in these situations. You know, so.
Mhm.
But yeah, so my final takeaway. So obviously we see, you know, Teddy's words helped Franklin to kind of realize what was going on because, you know, when he goes back to the hospital where everyone is, you know, T's there, Leon's there, Jerome's there, Sissy's there, and everything. Thankfully, you know, Louie at this point, they find out that she's alive still and she's gonna make it.
Mhm.
But you know, T, you know, who has been going back and forth with Manboy, she comes to Franklin with this idea that you know if you give up the connect, then Manboy can maybe get Khadija to back off, and it's through this suggestion that you know Franklin is able to think, oh damn, so you know this is the one that I shouldn't trust right here, and then you
Mhm.
know of course we see at the end, you know, T makes it home. She calls Manboy. She tells him the update that you know Franklin is gonna go ahead with it. And you know, she after the phone call, she sits down, and then you know we see the cane. You know, we see the walking stick and everything, and we see the shoes. And then you know Franklin is he heard the whole thing. So yeah, Franklin finally knows that T has been double crossing him. And I do have a question about this, you know, later
Mhm.
on. But you know, we are gonna get your takeaways first from this episode. So go ahead.
Okay. So those were some excellent takeaways. I agree with a lot of points that was said. I'm going to expand upon a few things. So takeaway. Let's go to Teddy first. Um, I know that the last episode, Teddy was on the run after he tried to kill this the bank accountant gentleman. So it was a little weird to see this episode start. You see he's out somewhere in, it looks like, the woods. And he has this encounter with somebody who almost kills him. And when he mentions the other contact who he used to work with, you see that this person has also died. So I guess they want to emphasize this is what the impacts of this war is having on everybody. I guess that's why they had that scene, although it kind of felt out of place to me because we didn't see Avi in this episode. So I'm assuming that how did he get back home? I guess he must have just jumped on a plane and got back to the United States because that was just unclear. And maybe that's a situation where, again, they were filming this during a pandemic. So there's certain scenes that you can't show or you don't have the bandwidth to show. I totally get that. But I was a little confused about that. I understand what they were going with. And again, he gets back. And then, of course, he has his encounter with Franklin finally, talks with Franklin. And I understand that his whole purpose in this episode was to remind Franklin that you can't trust everybody. But I will say I am disappointed that Franklin doesn't already know this. I mean, do we have to go back to the fact that Franklin had to kill his friend Kevin because Kevin gave away the recipe to, the other people that they was worried about? Do we have to go back to the fact that he had to kill Andre last season?
Yeah.
Which is someone who saw him growing up as a kid and the next door neighbor turned enemy. So I kind of feel like the Franklin character should already be wise up to know you can't trust a lot of these other people. And then, of course, Melody as well, because all the stuff that happened with her last season. So I kind of feel like for him to all of a sudden get it because of what Teddy said, that just seems a little ridiculous because he should already know this stuff. But I guess,
and that's something I kind of don't like because that was my problem with Power season 6 because it's like all these other seasons you have like this super calculating character who thinks about everything, who knows most of the time what's happening, and even if he's blindsided by something, he's able to adapt to it, just because he plans so well and everything. But all of a sudden in one season their character just switches up and they don't know what's going on and they're just making all these mistakes, so
exactly.
I don't like when that rapid kind of switch of character happens, like where he's super calculating all these other times, but now he's just letting all these things blindside him with no plan or no direction. So
I agree 100%, and now that makes me concerned that now he will completely trust Teddy, because Teddy is also someone that could turn on him. If Teddy feels his operation is in danger, he may have to make a difficult decision to give up Franklin, and to me that's like, after him telling you this information, that should have been a warning. Even in a couple weeks ago when he said anybody is replaceable because he was drunk. All of this should be a warning to Franklin. Don't trust anybody. And that also means the people that you work with as well. So I'll be curious to see if they portray the character to wise up to that and also be aware of Teddy, because I feel like he should be concerned about Teddy also, or if it's going to be a totally other situation. So we'll see how they handle that. One other quick point I want to add before I go to my next takeaway. I also feel him telling Franklin not to trust anybody. Maybe this is a little bit of me reaching, but I think that is also going to be in relation to him and how he operates with Gustavo. One thing I didn't understand about this episode, last week we saw Gustavo was in Teddy's office, the fax comes in, and that has some information about his girl. So this week didn't address any of that. Didn't even talk to Reed about it at all. And that is why I'm thinking that Reed, I believe Reed knows a lot more about what happened to her than he's telling Gustavo. And the fact that they haven't had that conversation yet, it kind of makes me wonder, what is the direction for that? Because why would you introduce this whole thing about all that facts coming in and then it's not addressed the next week? So I want to see exactly what's going on with that, because we didn't see them. The only time we saw those two characters together again, that was when they, you know, was basically going after Irene. So
Yeah.
they have to address that, because that's like something that's in there for a reason. And I think it is a situation where he might not be so trusting of Teddy if Teddy knows more and he didn't tell him information. But I guess we'll have to wait to see when
Yeah.
that's going to happen.
Yeah, like, and just to add on to that, like, I feel like Gustavo, he's been like way too cool these past few episodes. Like, I feel like there's
Hmm.
something going on with him, like something in the background.
Yeah.
So yeah, something is gonna happen between him and Teddy for sure. Maybe
Well,
by the end of the season.
well, yeah,
So
because you saw how he interacted with Teddy's bosses. When the
yeah,
guy is coming there trying to get up into the office, and he pulls out a gun and said, "No, you're not going up there."
yeah,
So it's definitely something that's going to happen between those two characters. It's just a matter of what that's going to be all about, because they obviously have a lot. I think right now their focus is to get the attention off of them with this story, but something's definitely going to happen with those two characters. I feel like it's inevitable. Um, we'll see. So a few other quick takeaways to mention. I agree 100% with everything you said about Louie and about going to the funeral. I just think that was a very foolish idea for them to go to the funeral. I know you want to pay respect to Manboy. I mean to say not Manboy, Fatback, because he was very loyal to all of them.
hmm,
And so I understand that, but you got to know now, like you said, Leon, that to me is what you said. That's the whole issue with it. If they wanted to go to the funeral, I kind of feel like they could have went to the funeral without Leon. Maybe that shooting might not have happened, because you saw as soon as they saw Leon was with them, they said, "Oh yeah, we gonna roll. We gonna take him out right now." So maybe it is the fact that Leon was there. I don't know. I definitely would question to see what would happen if he wasn't there. Would they still try to go after him? Um, but because Franklin is the one that's responsible for a lot of this stuff happening. So, but yeah, it didn't make sense to me why you would even attempt to do that. It's just like you're asking for trouble going to that funeral, knowing that you have a bounty on your head, and just completely ignoring last week when Leon had someone that was trying to shoot him right there in his own neighborhood. So, I don't understand where they were going with that. I guess they wanted to really intensify the situation, the shock factor, so on and so forth. And don't get it twisted. It was a good thing to happen. It was still satisfying to see things escalate, because you're expecting a dramatic showdown at the end of all of this. But I just think the way they went about it, it just doesn't make any sense. Because in common sense, I kind of think people would be a little bit more mindful to say, you know what, I have a bounty on my head. I think I'm going to stay home. I'm not going to go out and get myself killed in a situation like that. But it is what it
yeah,
is. Um, so other takeaways, I think I only have about maybe two more. So yeah, Irene situation. I don't understand why they didn't kill her. Like you said, the character has a lot more to do. That's the only thing I could think of. What I also found interesting is that I know the paper didn't want to reveal the names of the people they had, and that's one thing I will give them credit for. They showed how impactful that story was, because even you had people at the Pentagon, in the White House, coming after them, asking them, "Hey, what are you doing with the story? What are you
yeah,
talking about with the story?" So it's good that they showed that. Um, and I'm curious to see how it escalates next week, because now that the story is out here, you heard that Teddy was saying we need to stop the second part of the story from getting, uh, you know, put out there. I don't know how he intends to do that. Obviously, some connections, but if the fact that you wanted to do that, and yet you still leave the person responsible for writing the story alive, doesn't make any sense at all, because that's going to come back and impact all of them.
yeah.
But we'll see.
And it doesn't seem like that warning is enough to stop Irene, because we know how
Hmm.
stubborn she is. Like, I don't think anything is going to stop her from wanting to put the story out. And even if the newspaper, like her colleagues and everything, tell her not to, I think she's still going to find a way to do it. So
Hmm.
yeah.
I agree. I agree 100%.
So they're
Um,
really gonna have to kill her, really, I think. So
I agree 100%. Um, and the last thing I will say is, yeah, this episode we finally got I guess we got to look at Manboy, Scully's base of operations at the barbershop. So now you know that they. I guess so. I guess you have to give them credit this week and said they did something with these characters this week. I guess because Scully wasn't on last week. Um, and again, they were at the barbershop waiting for there to be some retaliation, which is fine. Didn't quite happen. Might happen next week, or some variation of it is going to happen. But again, I just feel like we're at a point now where it feels to me like some major characters are still going to get killed. At least it feels that way because Louie getting taken out. I think a lot of people thought that she was going to die after this shootout, which that would have been even more impactful if they took that approach. But because she didn't, and because Jerome is also hard-headed, frustrated, and does not trust what Franklin says, doesn't trust that Franklin will act accordingly, I could definitely see Jerome being the one that is taken out now, which would be unfortunate. But at least we know if he goes out, he's going to go out like a G. He's not. It's not going to be no, like some little, like in The Wire when your boy Omar got killed inside the store. It's not going to be like that. He's going to go out with guns blazing, I would assume, if it comes to that.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see, but it just feels to me like it's so much tension with the family. Some major people could die, and that whole thing about him telling Alton to put a muzzle on his father. I mean, they say him telling Franklin to put a muzzle on Alton. It kind of feels to me like that situation is not going to end well, and I could see Alton getting killed because, again, one thing they told you in this episode. Now Sissy, she's over all the stuff happening. She wants to leave and get out. She tells Franklin, "I want to get out. I don't want to go anywhere with your father, but I want to get out." Whereas Alton is trying to get her to go with him. So if she does have a change of heart and decides she wants to go with Alton, and Franklin finds out, that's not going to end well. And I could see Alton being the one that may actually get killed this time, since we thought he was going to get shot last week.
Yeah.
But it's just not going to end well. All I will say is this: if Teddy is the one that has to take out Alton, and yet he didn't take out Irene, I will be very angry because Irene is the one that wrote the story. So I feel like if you're going to take out Irene, you need to take out Alton too. But if you take out Alton and you don't touch Irene, I will be pissed about that. I will be, because it's like it doesn't make any sense. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. I definitely feel like there's going to be a lot of bloodshed in these next 2 episodes. So we'll have to see who the victims are. So was that all of your takeaways, or are you done?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's takeaways.
Okay, so yeah, with that being said, I do think there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. So my question was going to be, my first question is, do you think T is going to die? Because obviously the way this episode ends, Franklin is in her apartment. He just heard her on the phone. He knows what's going on, and he's there with his what's the guy's name? Is it
Peaches?
Peaches, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what do you think is going to happen to T now?
Let me just start by saying that was an excellent scene. It was very satisfying to see her make that call. Then all of a sudden, you see in the background, here comes the cane, here comes the shoes. That's Franklin.
Yep.
That was a great scene because it's great to see the character is finally wising up to what's going on. It is still annoying that he hasn't been smart and hasn't thought about this ahead of time. But to answer your question, will she die? Well, I think now, yes, she's in a very volatile situation because if it was, I mean, she was already threatened in this episode that she might get shot when Manboy confronted her. But because she's trying to do all this to, save her brother and make sure she gets money for her brother, I kind of feel like that whole situation right now is going to be a lot more complicated. So if I had to make a guess, I would say, yeah, she probably is going to be the one that perishes in this. And what is unfortunate about it is that if this was about money, Franklin told her several episodes ago, if you need anything, I got you. I'm pretty sure he would have gave money to help out her brother. But the whole thing is that Manboy knows where her brother is at and knows people that can hurt her brother. So I understand the motivation as to why she would want to work with him. But to think that he would never find out, that's just, come on now. You got to know that. You got to be smarter than that. So do I think she will get killed at some point? Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of casualties because I don't really see what is the point to have her around now that the secret is out there. You know that she was a part of this. You can use her to help play against Manboy, but after that, you can't trust her. So what's going to happen after that? But I don't think that character is going to make it. If they get into a shootout with Manboy and Scully, she's not going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think she's going to make it. I don't think she's on the safe list at all. But it's a matter of how will she die? Because for some reason, I feel like Franklin is justified to want to kill her. But for some reason, the way this show has been, I feel like he's not going to be the one to do it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe he roughs her up a little bit, or threatens her or whatever, but then, leaves her, and then maybe Manboy, ends up doing the job later on because, she messed up. But
I have a suggestion.
What's that?
Seeing as how she told Franklin, well, she pretty much had said that, it was Khadijah who was been behind all of this. Khadijah might be the one that kills her. Because that she's the one that she when they mentioned, as soon as they mentioned her, she said, "Oh yeah, Khadijah, that's who it is." Then it's like, it kind of feels like, you shouldn't be talking about this person like that. So I kind of feel like if Khadijah ever finds out that she did turn on Drew, she'll probably be the one to take her out.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they want to show a guy killing a woman like that on.
Yeah, that's what I was
TV.
Thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess another way they could play it is like maybe Franklin tries to pull a reverse move and he tries to get T to set up the other guys. Like, so like maybe he gets her to set up like the meet for the connect or whatever, but he's not really going to give them the connect. And then like they set up an ambush or something like that, So
that's actually what I thought that's actually what I thought they was gonna do at the end of the episode when he was telling her, yeah, call him and let him know we'll give the connect, all this other stuff. But I guess we have to wait until next week to see if that's actually what happens.
Yeah. And we'll get to next week because there is some stuff in that preview to talk about, but there is a conversation that you and I wanted to have about the way this show is panning out at the moment, right? So we know season 5 is confirmed already, and season 4 is getting ready to wrap up. We have 2 episodes left, so I wanted to ask you, we've kind of discussed this, we've kind of like talked about this a lot, and the way this show is going, like the way the story's unfolding, it's hard to see how much further this story can really go, because it seems like we're at the end game with everything that's going down. Like, I mean, now the media has put out that the CIA is funding the drug scene and everything, and allowing drugs into the country and everything like that, and allowing them to be sold, right? So it's like, once everybody knows that that's a thing, that's going to make the government want to stop that completely, because they don't want to be exposed to the backlash that's going to bring for them. So it's like, and we know how it panned out in real life with Freeway Rick and everything. So it's like, once that's out there, the government kind of want to separate themselves from that image, and they probably will turn on Freeway Rick just to make just to keep their hands clean, kind of thing. So it's like, if we're reaching this point in the story, how much further can we really go? So with that in mind, is season 5 the final season? Because I don't see how much further they can extend it beyond season 5. So what would you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, well, first and foremost, I love the show. I'm glad that it has increased viewership. It's still a really good show. It's not perfect. Some things might be a little flawed from time to time, but it's still a solid show, and I definitely would say it is still, in my opinion, better than Power, the last season of Power. Power Ghost is okay, but yeah, definitely better than season 6 of Power. But do I think the show is over? I think that it only can extend. I do believe it only can extend to one more season because, as you mentioned already on this show, every character right now we're in the in game stages. We're at every character now. This is we're in. Everybody is in their own downfall now. Teddy is doing whatever he can to keep the operation going. Gustavo is, he thinks he might have a lead on his woman, so he's probably going to explore that at some point. And then, of course, Franklin, all the stuff happening with his family life, that's getting a lot more dangerous now for him to continue doing all of this. Plus, the main thing is that if Teddy is in a desperate move to get rid of everything, that means he would have to sever ties with Franklin as well. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like it only can extend for another season. Now, obviously, they haven't said that it's the final season. They said it got renewed for a 5th season, but they didn't say anything about it being the final season. Some people that were talking in that group that we are in are saying that maybe it can go to season 6. Maybe, but I kind of feel like you're dragging out things past that point. Yeah. One thing I will say is that, we spoke about this before. I think we felt like this whole gang thing between Manboy and Scully had to end by the end of the season. I don't feel that that's going to happen now because we only have 2 episodes left, and there hasn't really been any movement in terms of this getting closer to ending. So, I mean, a lot can happen in the next 2 episodes. So surely that's possible, but I kind of feel like this Manboy thing, this is going to extend into next season, at least as far as that's concerned. Khadijah might be the one that gets taken out by the end of the season, and that will trigger Manboy and Scully to really go after Franklin. But we'll see how that plays out. But for right now, I would say, for me at least, until I'm convinced otherwise, it feels like season 5 is the last season of the show. Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about the gang stuff. Because it seems like it was like really heavy at the start of the season. It seemed like this was going to be the whole season, like this whole gang war and stuff, and then it kind of slowed down a lot the past few episodes. So the only way it can kind of tie up this season is if there's like one big shootout or something between everyone, like in these next 2 episodes or something, and a lot of people die. But unless that happens, then like you said, it seems like this might drag out until the next season. And I think you could possibly have somebody maybe like Khadijah or Scully die, but I don't think all of them are gonna die. Like I don't think they're gonna take out the whole gang. So somebody is gonna survive, and then that's gonna cause more problems leading into the next season. So yeah, and then also you have the dynamic between Franklin and Teddy, and I feel like that is going to become a thing where we see those two kind of on opposite sides. Like they're going to turn on each other at some point, I think. Teddy is going to want to bring down Franklin and kind of maybe try to pin everything on him, make him the evil kingpin who did everything or whatever. And Franklin, with the knowledge he has about, Teddy being CIA, maybe he can plan some things that, can make Teddy's life difficult. So, yeah, I feel like we're going to reach a point where those two kind of have to turn on each other. And I feel like, if once that starts to happen, that it's not going to go on too much longer. Like, unless it becomes like a trial kind of show where like they're showing the back and forth in the courtrooms and things like that. But I don't know if that's the direction they're really gonna go in, but we'll have to wait and see.
That's a good point. I think you said it right there. Once they start to turn on each other, that's when I guess it's coming to an end. I was thinking, because really the story is about those 3 characters, Gustavo, Franklin, and Teddy. So honestly, if the show was to continue, I mean, if they wanted to, they can continue what's happening with these characters. outside of the drug stuff, but I kind of feel like it will lose the whole purpose of the Snowfall thing because they're all connected to selling this product and having something to do with the product and how it grows and expands. So if you was to focus on just what's going on them directly and not related to the product, then it kind of feels like it would be long in the tooth.
Yeah.
So I agree. Yeah, once that starts to happen between Teddy and Franklin, that's probably when it's coming to an end. But we'll see what they say. It definitely feels like season 5 could be the end. If not, for some odd reason, season 6. I don't think it's going past that though.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like they've already told a lot of story in the show already. So we just have to wait and see. But I guess really ultimately, I guess it depends what happens in the next 2 episodes right now. Because if some other major characters are taken out, and that starts the whole thing where Teddy is turning on Franklin or vice versa, then you can say, okay, maybe season 5 is it. But I guess it depends on what happens in the finale and everything leading up to it. But we'll see. I'm very curious to know what the viewers think, if this show is going to continue, if they think season 5 is the last season, or if they think that this can continue for like another 2 or 3 seasons. But I honestly feel it's either season 5, and if it's not season 5, season 6 is it, for sure.
Yeah.
But five sounds like a safe bet. I if I had to make a guess.
Yep. Yeah, I think the main thing for me is like once the CIA has been outed for their involvement in this, it's like how much further can you go? Because then, everybody kind of knows something like that is going on. So it's like, I just, it makes it hard to imagine that they can keep on going, keep on doing business like they already have when that secret has already been kind of exposed. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's my main thing. But yeah, before we wrap up here, was there anything in the preview for episode 9 that you kind of wanted to highlight, or that you think we should look out for?
Yeah, just a few quick things. They had a scene between Avi and Teddy where Avi is talking about, you may have to tie up a loose end or cut a loose end loose. That's what leads me to think that Teddy is going to have to get involved in what's happening with Franklin and Alton. And if that happens, that could be the start of Franklin and Teddy having a bad relationship. Because everything that you've seen this season would make you believe everything is cool between these two characters. And even though they had to blow up in this episode, he still said, oh yeah, I'll be there with you at the end, to make him believe that, yes, we're still in this together. Yeah. But when push comes to shove and Teddy's ass is on the line, he has to look out for himself, which means that he would not have a problem throwing Gustavo or Franklin to the wolves. So I kind of feel like that was a hint that something is happening. And then I also noticed that in that same trailer, when they were talking about that, it looked like there was a scene of Alton having some tape recorder. So I would like to know, who is he recording? Does he find Teddy and have a conversation with him? What is that all about? Because I think those two are definitely connected. Because you said that they might be worried that he's still going to be talking. If he's starting to record a conversation, that's a problem. And that also wouldn't make any sense, because in this episode, he regretted talking to Irene the previous week, and he tells this to Sissy. So if he's continuing to try to go after the CIA, that is not going to be a wise thing for him to do. It wouldn't be smart at all, because that's not going to end well, because we already know Teddy, he doesn't want to interact with Teddy, because Teddy might have to take him out. So we'll see about that. The other takeaway that I have is, of course, we saw Jerome very angry, does not trust Franklin, doesn't believe anything that Franklin has to say. And this all stems from the fact that Franklin lied about who Teddy really is. They have that scene at the end of the trailer where it looks like one of the gang members gets out of the car with a gun, and then you see Jerome get out the car with a gun. So the last time we saw a trailer like this, where there was a car involved and people with guns, you saw what we got. That was when the little girl got killed. So I kind of feel like Jerome probably definitely he'll probably take out some people, but he definitely gonna get shot up if that's how they're going to play this. So we'll see what happens. But I just want to remind everybody, and this isn't really a spoiler. I said this last week on the show. The description synopsis for episode 10, in one of the first lines, Franklin's family becomes fractured. So that means that something's going to happen. Either it's a situation where Alton is going to possibly get killed, and Franklin that's going to mess up Franklin's family even further, or Jerome is going to get killed, and Sissy will be torn up behind that, and then definitely want to leave behind with Alton if she's able to. Or it could be a situation where Alton and Jerome get taken out, and that would be very devastating to the family, obviously. Yeah. So we'll see, because it kind of feels like Sissy is looking for a way out right now. It would be very unfortunate if Alton was her way out and she is unable to take that trip, and she's also stuck there with Franklin. So it can go in any direction, but it's not going to get good. It's not going to be good for Franklin. Whatever's coming next, it's going to be worse than what we've seen so far for him, I believe. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, great breakdown on the trailer right there. Some good points. Yeah, I definitely feel like somebody is definitely dying, like as a guarantee in the next episode. So, and it could be any of the people you mentioned, or all of them. It could be Alton and Jerome. It could be one of them. But yeah, somebody is going out. Somebody's getting taken out in the next episode. I think that's for sure. So yeah, we're in for a treat, I think, as we try to as we watch this episode and try to figure out who's gonna make it, who's gonna survive. I think that's gonna be a great feeling, and that's one of the joys of watching shows every week, like the anticipation, and the anticipation is one of the things that makes this show great, I think. So yeah, always a pleasure to talk about Snowfall. And that is going to be it for this week. We urge everybody to stay safe, stay healthy, get your vaccinations and everything. Look after your families, and for the time being, drop your comments. Let us know what you think is going to happen in the next episode of Snowfall. Let us know what you thought of episode 8. And if you like the content, hit the like button, subscribe, and check out some of the other stuff we have on the channel also. And you can also visit thekoalition.com, Koalition with a K, to get a look at all of our other content. We cover games, we cover movies, we cover TV shows, wrestling, all types of stuff. So go check it out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. And I hope you stay safe, Mr. Richard Baby Jr.
You too, Mr. Gary Swaby, and thank everybody for listening, and looking forward to our recap next week.
All right, take care. Have a good week.